everyone, my name is Jason, aka Bacon Chest, coach of the St Kilda Superiors, and welcome back to the MLBA. I know we've had a bit of a break, but we had a forfeit in week 8, and then we went away, and then my internet died. It's been a bit of a time, but we are back with what is going to be week 9 of the MLBA versus Spanic at the Disco and the Reno Acelora. I'm going to be doing week 10 and week 11 recordings, so we're going to have all those videos up over the next day or two. So yeah, should be exciting. Going to be trying to get as much content out as possible, especially going into playoffs. And you know, this is our only YouTube league at the moment. Unfortunately, the league that I was going to be doing some analysis for, in fact, died. So that was a bit unfortunate, but we are going to push on. So, let's look at the matchup. So, this week, week 9 versus Spanic versus the Reno Acelora. They have a team consisting of Mega Metagross, Goodra, Mimikyu, Greninja, Protean, Miltank, Rotom Frost, Claydol, Salazzle, Gerda, Sceptile, and Wooper, with Goodra, Greninja, and Rotom having access to Z moves. This team has some really scary mons, and then some, like, you know, significantly less scary mons. So, like, Mega Metagross, obviously huge threat, just incredibly bulky, hard to take down in one hit. Protean Greninja, especially with access to Z moves, is going to pretty much kill whatever it wants. And Mimikyu can obviously sweep any team at any point, and its ability is busted. I mean, like, literally sometimes. But yeah, it's a really good mon. And then yeah, he's got some, like, quite good supporting mons. Rotom Frost's actually a reasonably big offensive threat to my team. Bolt Beam is pretty good against my squad. Shock Horror. As it is against many squads. So offensively, Rotom Frost is actually pretty good. Miltank and Goodra and Claydol form a pretty good defensive core. And, you know, he's got some sort of more niche offensive threats, such as Salazzle and Sceptile. Going into this matchup, I knew I wanted to bring Infernape. We needed the Mach Punch for Protean Greninja, and that was basically all I really needed it for, also to threaten out the Miltank, although I didn't necessarily expect the Miltank to come against my team, just because I had bought Infernape a lot. And Earthquake was obviously necessary for the Mega Metagross, also allows us to not be walled by Salazzle, which is a bit of a silly thing to be walled by such a frail Pokemon, but so it goes with our stabs. And yeah, then we have Close Combat so that we're not walled by Goodra. This does mean we're somewhat walled by Mimikyu. Obviously, like, we can hit it with Earthquake and Flame Charge, we can break its disguise. Flame Charge is actually really useful for breaking its disguise, because we can then outspeed the following turn. If it is a Jolly Mimikyu, we have enough speed to outspeed an Adamant Mimikyu. The logic behind Flame Charge here over anything else was basically that if I am able to revenge kill something with Flame Charge, or Flame Charge on a switch into an offensive check, then we can potentially just win if Mimikyu is gone. Because at that point, if we're able to Flame Charge, and then a weakened Mega Metagross comes out, then we now outspeed and kill with Earthquake, and Bullet Punch does nothing to us. If we're able to Flame Charge, and then the Greninja comes out trying to revenge us, we can actually then outspeed a Water Shuriken with Mach Punch. And at that point, we can kill off the Greninja before it can kill us, so that's really cool. And we can just naturally outspeed the Sceptile, we can outspeed a Scarf Rotom Frost and kill that thing off with Close Combat. So yeah, this thing can potentially clean late game, but its main role is just Life Orb, Iron Fist, Mach Punch, to get rid of that Protean Greninja. Or even just the weakened Rotom Frost, and yeah, that's pretty much the main role for Infernape going into this week. Next up we have Metagross. This is our dedicated Mimikyu answer. Cassib Berry to take half damage from a Ghost attack. Meteor Mash, Bullet Punch, Earthquake, Stealth Rock. So this thing gets up rocks, which is nice, but probably more to the point this week, it stops Mimikyu from ever sweeping us. Because the Mimikyu doesn't have Z moves, it is slightly easier to deal with. And yeah, I can't remember what the exact EVs on this spread do, but basically we're able to tank +2 Life Orb, Shadow Claw. Probably 2 of them. Maybe it was Shadow Claw into Shadow Sneak. Yeah, I think it may have been that we can tank +2 Shadow Claw with the Cassib Berry into +2 Shadow Sneak, and that allows us to Meteor Mash into Bullet Punch, or Bullet Punch into Bullet Punch. Like, obviously, we don't. It doesn't matter which one we click the first turn. Yeah, I can't remember the exact purpose of this spread, but regardless, all that needs to be known is that this thing stops Mimikyu from sweeping my team. That's pretty much all it does. Bullet Punch can potentially be useful for picking off Rotom Frost. Earthquake is there so we're not walled by Mega Metagross. And Salazzle, but like otherwise Steel Stab's actually, it's been really funny. I've had a few matchups recently where Steel Stab, and like Steel is a really bad offensive typing generally, right? Like it's super effective on what, like Rock and Ice, which are already types that have a lot of weaknesses, and then like Fairy, which, you know, obviously is a good typing. That's a really good typing to have a super effective hit on. But aside from that, it doesn't really hit that much, and yet I found a few matchups recently where Steel Stab has been like incredibly helpful for breaking down my opponent's team. I guess because people don't really think to pick up steel resists all that often. So yeah, anyway, little tangent aside, that's the role for Metagross. And then we move on to Tornadus. This is a Assault Vest, Tornadus, you know, pretty kind of standard set. Like actually very, very standard. Literally probably the 4 most standard moves that you see on a Tornadus. Focus Blast lets us hit the Greninja. Like lets us KO the Greninja, although U-Turn obviously will still hit it reasonably hard even with a timid nature, because Greninja's relatively frail. But Focus Blast allows us to guarantee KO that thing. Obviously, it does depend on what typing the Greninja is mimicking, but presumably Greninja would click Ice Beam on us, although I guess in that case Heat Wave is also fine, but yeah. Like, obviously it can be a bit hard with Protein Greninja, but I mean, this just means like we have a guaranteed way of hitting it if it is in Dark or Ice form. The other thing that Focus Blast does gives us a harder hit on Rotom Frost, so that can potentially be helpful, especially like if I suspect it's an Ockerberry Rotom Frost, which it very well might with... no, Infernape would also carry fighting moves, so no, I don't expect Berry Rotom Frost, that'd be a bad set. Yeah, otherwise Heat Wave hits the Mega Metagross, which is really important, and the Rotom Frost. That's the thing that Focus Blast is there for, is to hit the Miltank super effectively, so we're not like 100% walled by that thing. Probably I should have just run Superpower instead, because it probably does a similar amount. Maybe I didn't want the attack and defense drops, but yeah. So yeah, we are relying on the 70% accurate moves this week, but we'll see how that goes. Hopefully it goes well. Moving on, we've got Salamence with Yachi Berry, D-Dance, D-Claw, Shadow Claw, Stone Edge. Shadow Claw allows us to hit both the Mimikyu and the Mega Metagross super effectively, so that's quite handy. Stone Edge allows us to hit the Rotom Frost and KO that thing, so yeah, this thing can set up a D-Dance on a Rotom Frost and then kill it off with Stone Edge, which is nice. The other... does Stone Edge let us do anything else? I don't think so. But yeah, what this thing can do... Oh yes, so with Shadow Claw, if for whatever reason I'm only able to break the disguise but not actually kill off the Mimikyu, and I'm staring down a +2 Mimikyu and my Metagross is gone, I can bring this thing in, intimidate it down to +1, I outspeed a Jolly Mimikyu, and we can KO it with Shadow Claw, and he can't KO me with +1 Shadow Sneak. So yeah, pretty niche scenario, but this, you know, you can't take a threat like Mimikyu too seriously. Like, it's very, very easy to let yourself get swept by it. And then otherwise, if we can get a D-Dance up, this thing can put in a lot of work if my opponent's team is a little bit weakened. Obviously, the other thing Shadow Claw hits is the Claydol super effectively, and I do kind of expect the Claydol to come because it is my opponent's only Dark type, and I have this thing, which is a Tapu Koko. Electrum Z, T-Bolt, Dazzling Gleam, U-Turn, Grass Knot. Grass Knot obviously for the Claydol. Electrium Z, T-Bolt is a really good nuke against my opponent's team because it can destroy... It can do a lot to the Mega Metagross, it can do a lot to the Miltank, it can do a lot even to something like Rotom Frost, to things like... yeah, no, I think those are the main ones. Particularly Mega Metagross, having a nuke for that thing is really important because, as you can see, like, I have a lot of mons that hit that thing super effectively, but none of them are really going to KO it because it just is so bulky. So, yeah, if we can get rocks up, if we can, like, chip away at it with, like, a U-turn or something like that, then this thing can just come in and nuke things. The special defense is to allow us to take Water Shurikens from the Greninja a little bit better because we do guaranteed outspeed a timid Greninja. And yeah, we didn't need any other real investment on this Koko. Lastly, we have an Assault Vest Blastoise, Aura Sphere for the Greninja. This thing can tank hits from that, and I think with the max special attack modus, we actually guaranteed KO with Aura Sphere, so that's quite nice. Given I expect... yeah, no, see, once again, I was clearly not on my game prepping here. I wasn't thinking about the fact that it's Protean Greninja, because obviously it's probably going to be clicking Grass Knot, in which case what I need is Ice Beam, not Aura Sphere. So, yeah, look, this was bad prep, frankly, with both the Blastoise and the Tornadus. We're running fighting moves when we really shouldn't be. Although it does also allow us to hit the Rotom Frost super effectively, so that's kind of cool. Dark Pulse is there to hit the Mega Metagross super effectively, that does actually make sense, and then Scald allows us to fish for Scald Burns when we're breaking Mimikyu's Disguise, potentially, which is useful, and Rapid Spin, obviously, to get rid of hazards. I don't really expect my opponent to be relying that much on hazards, but, like, rocks could potentially be something we want to get rid of in the late game. So, that said, let's get into the battle. So, you see that my opponent decides to bring the Greninja, the Mimikyu, the Rotom Frost, the Goodra, the Sceptile, and the Claydol. And so the first thing I see is that Mega Metagross is not there, and that's great, frankly, because I didn't really want to deal with that thing. But we do see the Greninja, we do see the Mimikyu, those are the two big offensive threats. I did kind of expect the Sceptile to come, actually, because it has a pretty good speed tier matchup against my team, like only being outsped by the Torn and the Koko, and not even necessarily the Torn. I mean, did I actually respect the Sceptile in matchup? No, I didn't respect the Sceptile in matchup at all. So yeah, that thing's actually gonna, if it's fast enough, will outspeed my entire team bar the Koko. And obviously it does resist Koko's stab. I mean, obviously I can hit it with Dazzling Gleam, but if it's like something like an AV Sceptile, that's potentially a pretty good Koko answer. And we do see the Claydol, which is another obvious Koko answer. Yeah, looking into this, if I can get rid of the Mimikyu, we can potentially clean with our Flame Charge Infernape. Otherwise, yeah, I was maybe just thinking get rocks up, and then we can potentially clean with something like Koko, or even Tornadus, to be honest, because my opponent doesn't have particularly good resists to either of those. If we can weaken down these two, or we can weaken down the Sceptile and the Claydol, or excuse me. Or... yeah, no, that's about it, because any Scarfer that my opponent's going to run isn't necessarily going to be able to take on a D-Dance Salamence, because I don't expect Greninja or... I was actually maybe expecting a Scarf Ninja going into this match, actually, just to outspeed the Koko and kill it off with Gunk Shot. So, yeah, let's see how it goes. So I decided to lead off with Tornadus. Let's put that down slow. As my opponent leads off with Goodra, I'm just going to click U-turn. I can't really do anything to this Goodra, because Goodra's just so specially fat. So I'm just going to U-turn out. We get a crit, which is nice. As we see that my opponent is Gooey over Sapsipper, which probably makes more sense. I'm going to be clicking U-turn a lot more. Well, I'm going to be clicking U-turn, which obviously Gooey doesn't affect that. But I probably was going to be clicking physical hits on this thing more often than I was going to be clicking grass moves. Given that I really wasn't going to bring Tangrowth to this matchup when my opponent has things like Greninja, things like Rotom Frost. It just wasn't that helpful. So, we go out into Blastoise. It's my opponent clicks the T-Bolt, which makes sense, given it hit both Blastoise and Tornadus, but he'll now know I'm Assault Vest. I'm going to double out into the Tapu Koko because I expected my opponent to either make a double or to go for another T-Bolt, because obviously that would be my opponent's best move to hit Blastoise with. The other option would have been maybe a Dragon Tail, or a Draco Meteor to just try and do as much damage as possible. In any circumstance there, Tapu Koko was the best switch in. Probably the worst thing my opponent could have done there would have been to click a Toxic, and that would have been a little bit annoying, but Koko, you know, like, yeah, no, that would have been quite annoying, but we don't need a huge amount of health on the Koko. So, I'm just going to click Dazzling Gleam because I need to... I want to weaken this thing. As my opponent clicks Volt Switch, because, yeah, I didn't really expect this thing to be an offensive threat. I was expecting a bulkier set. As brings out Johnny GB, Sceptile, as I'm going to go into Ments, because this is actually my only real response to this thing, funnily enough. Because, yeah, I don't really have good defensive answers to a Sceptile. You know, I've got Tornado, like, I mean, I guess Tornadus is, but Tornadus is really important in this game for things like the Greninja. So, yeah, Salamence is probably, like, the kind of Gloomon here, as I'm able to click D-Dance, as my opponent goes for another Rock Slide, and you can see that, because, so, yeah, I don't know what the roll was there, because it's done 34 the first time and 36 the second. If 33 was a potential roll, we could have potentially lived 3 of these, but apparently not. And so I am now in range of another one, but I'm kind of thinking, well, we can just click +1 Dragon Claw. My opponent lives with 5%. I think they must have had some bulk investment, because I'm fairly certain that kills a no bulk Sceptile with my spread, because I believe I am adamant. I didn't actually check that, but yeah. That's fine, because this Sceptile's now at 5, and we know that it's not a Scarf set, so I can just come out with Dazzling Gleam. I mean, even if it was, it would have to, like, Rock Slide flinch me, which is not that big of a deal. Oh no, we know that it's not a Scarf set, because otherwise, Ments would not have outsped at +1. So that's fine. And if it had come out that it was a Scarf set, then obviously Metagross comes in and just gets to click buttons. In fact, yeah, Metagross really does click buttons against this team. Like, my opponent's Steel Resist is the Greninja, and, like, if my opponent's switching Greninja in on Meteor Mashes, then I'm having a great day. Anyway, so I just clicked Dazzling Gleam on the Rotom, as my opponent likes to go for Pain Split, and I see that my opponent gets back to 53%. And I've been doing some calcs on this thing, and this Rotom's got a bit of bulk, but what... no, or maybe no bulk? I can't remember. But anyway, based on my calculations, minimum damage for a Gigavolt Havoc in terrain from this range, against my opponent's expected spread is 54%, so I'm just going to bop my opponent with the Gigavolt Havoc here. My opponent revealed after the game that they were in fact Sub-Zero Slammer on their Rotom, and were kind of expecting me to respect that and, like, switch out with the Koko, and that's why they clicked Pain Split the previous turn. But I just was like, no, this Rotom's not an offensive threat to me. I can take a Blizzard, like, I don't really care. And, yeah, so, bit unfortunate on my opponent's end that I was kind of a bit blasé to the offensive threat of Rotom. But it does mean that we are able to take down the Rotom with the Gigavolt Havoc. Still got Koko, we're 5-4 up here, I'm feeling pretty good. We're able to click a U-turn, get some good damage off on the Claydol. That'll now be 2 at KO'd, I'm fairly certain, by the Grass Knot, as my opponent just selects to get up rocks, which is kind of what I was expecting. I think I click Scald this turn. Yeah, I clicked Scald this turn in case the Mimikyu decided to come out on a really ballsy play. We do actually get the burn, as my opponent just goes for a Toxic. So that's pretty good. This thing's now, like, not at all a defensive response to Tapu Koko. So I think I'm just going to click Rapid Spin here. Yeah, not expecting my opponent to go out into Mimikyu, because Mimikyu is definitely my opponent's win con. Mimikyu or... yeah, Greninja's not really a win con at this point, just because I do have Tapu Koko, and... although I am kind of maybe anticipating it to be Scarf. Yeah, no, I think I'm still thinking it's Scarf at this point of the game, just because my opponent hasn't brought it out so far. So Blastoise does go down to the T-Bolt from Goodra, as I am fairly certain this thing's now in Dazzling Gleam range. Yep, so we are able to pick up a Dazzling Gleam KO. So that gets rid of the Goodra, which is really, really helpful. As I'm able to click the U-turn and break the disguise on the Mimikyu, which is amazing. I think, yeah, just the fact that we were able to wear down the Goodra and wear down the Claydol, I think my opponent was probably better off sacking Claydol there, to be honest, and then either bringing out Greninja or Mimikyu. But, you know, obviously my opponent didn't have a huge amount left on their team to necessarily respond to my team. I think, yeah, probably my opponent's best play was sacking Claydol there, because Claydol wasn't really doing anything for them at that point. And Goodra still potentially got Gooey off on things like my Infernape. But anyway, I'm able to bring out Metagross here, as my opponent is able to click the Swords Dance, but I can... Wait. Oh yeah, my opponent clicks the Swords Dance as I U-turn out, and then they're actually clicking Shadow Sneak here, which tells me they probably don't have Shadow Claw, which is fine. That means I can actually afford the fact that I just missed that Meteor Mash. Which, yeah, if my opponent had Shadow Claw, would have been a problem, because I have lost my other defensive response to this in the form of the Salamence. I believe Tornadus and maybe even Infernape still tank +2 sneak at this range, maybe? Probably Tornadus, possibly not Infernape. So if my opponent had Shadow Claw there, I then would have been relying on clicking Bullet Punch here and hoping that killed, and depending on my opponent's spread, maybe not. As I am now able to click Bullet Punch, because my opponent is Life Orb, I now know that I can click Bullet Punch, because what that means is that I knew that I was going to put it in range of its own Life Orb hit, and I was worried about potentially dying to another Shadow Sneak. Or, you know, just straight up dying to a Shadow Claw, because I was still like, sort of, oh, maybe my opponent had Shadow Claw, maybe they were using the sneak first up. I wasn't really sure what was happening. I mean, I guess that, well, no, no, I know what was happening here is that, no, yeah. Anyway, sorry, this is a bit of a stumbly vid, just because we are, like, so far removed from the game. Like, this was played probably, like, 3 or 4 weeks ago. And yeah, so at this point, this is fine. My opponent's going to die to their own Life Orb recoil, so that brings down the Mimikyu, which leaves my opponent with Greninja and Claydol, and I'm just going to go into my Tapu Koko, I believe? Yes. Because at this point, Tapu Koko cleans up the game, because I just clicked Dazzling Gleam, and the Claydol goes down, and basically, if my opponent is Scarf Greninja here, then because Torn and Infernape are both at full health, that's fine. Scarf Gunk Shot doesn't clean up the game, basically. Infernape, I'm fairly certain, should tank and would be able to KO with Earthquake. My opponent is not Scarf, they are Water Shuriken. I don't know what that damage tells me about, whether or not it's like Specs or something like that. But basically, yeah, my opponent doesn't get the, like, probably like 3 or 4 crits they would have required. They do get 4 hits. I suppose 5 hits with 2 crits would have been enough to take me out. But we're able to click a T-Bolt and take my opponent out, and that's going to be a GG to Spanik and the Reno Acelora, with us picking up a 3-0 victory, Tapu Koko picking up a bunch of kills in that game, so that was really good. Finally, you know, really coming into its own as a kind of round 1 pick. So yeah, that's really nice. Puts us at, I believe at this point, 5-3, maybe? Hang on. No, sorry, this was week 9, so week 8 we potentially had a forfeit, so we weren't really sure, I wasn't really sure what was happening there. So this put us at 8 games. Yeah, no, this did put us at 5-3. Yeah, so this put us at 5-3 record, so that's really good. We just need, like, probably 2 more wins to guarantee playoffs, and maybe 3 more wins to potentially lock up number 1 seed in our division. So we're really, really close against Hat. Probably, like, if we're able to, I think, yeah, we'd probably have to win out. Or no. So I think we've got 1 game in hand on Hat at this point. But we do play Hat in the last round against the Portland Trailblazers. So that's going to be a really good game. Hopefully we're going to be both on the same record. I mean, hopefully I'm actually 1 win ahead. Although even if I am 1 win ahead, then that actually doesn't. Yeah, so even if I've won all my games up to that point, going into that match, if Hat wins, then we'll have the same record, but Hat will beat me on head-to-head and get in as number 1 seed ahead of me. So, you know, I kind of hope we are on the same record going in, and it'll just be a case of whoever wins takes the number 1 seed. So that'd be really cool. Anyway, so until next time, hope you are having a wonderful day, and I will see you guys next week. Or probably actually tomorrow.